Great. Hi, everybody. I'm Nina Boski, and I'm one of the producers for Behind the Icon. And I get the wonderful pleasure of being able to interview some of the cast. And I am so excited about our next guest. Her name is Monica Shahri. And here's the thing about her. I met her 8 years ago, didn't know who she was, and she was in the documentary called With Her. And I think one of the wonderful things that I'm so excited about introducing you, Monica, is that you have such a love for Marilyn. And I love that. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be a part of it.
So before we get into your character, and she plays Norma Jeane at 19 years old, and we had a tough time finding her, and it just happened that I must have done a Facebook post saying, we're looking long and hard for our Norma Jeane, right? And we live in Los Angeles, and so it was so wonderful because you really do capture her essence, and she's got a difficult voice. She's not an easy voice to capture, and you definitely, I think it's for your love of her and being able to study her for such a long time. So what makes you love her so much? I know that's a big question.
Who she was as a person, her kindness. She was very humble. She was comfortable being around just the people, and not necessarily like, her fans. She loved her fans, and she was human. And I feel like so many of us relate to her in so many different ways, and it's crazy to know, it's just this feeling where this huge movie star that's such an icon around the world can be so just like you. And it makes you feel like you're not alone. At least for me, some of the things that I've experienced in life, and I would just always turn to Marilyn, and I would feel better because it made me feel like I wasn't alone. And if someone like her was going through it, well, then maybe maybe she'll help me too, and maybe it'll be okay in the end when I have her. It's kind of hard to explain.
Well, it is and it isn't. I think for people that might be just being introduced to her, I think that would be like, oh, wow, I never thought about it from that perspective. But once you get up close and personal with her, you realize, even for myself, when I first learned about the movie With Her, and then for you, I didn't know that much about her. So, everything that you say right now, and especially with the podcast, trying to do a podcast that humanizes her, any star, but particularly her, because she's really exploited in so many ways, right? And so to do her story, and to do her story in a way that is respectful to her but also truthful, it's not an easy thing to do. But I love what you said about, if she can go through it, if she's gone through all this stuff, that she helped you along your journey. And I think that, probably out of any star icon that I know, she opens up that vulnerability for people to relate to her from that perspective. Right. So I love that. What got you interested? What was your moment where you said, oh my gosh, who is this actress?
Well, she's always been around. When I was about two years old, my mom bought this poster of Marilyn with her big white dress, and it was always in the house. And this was while I was living in Chicago, and so it was always there. And then my mom also bought these dolls, these Barbie as Marilyn dolls, and there was like 3 of them, and those were my favorite ones. And she would collect other Hollywood stars, but those were the ones that I would always grab and say, oh, she's so pretty, and my mom would tell me that's Marilyn. So as I grew older, it was about 11, I moved to California when I was born in California, but I moved back to California when I was 6. And a few years later, we went to Hollywood, and Marilyn is just everywhere, literally everywhere. And so I went into the souvenir shop, and I already knew who Marilyn was, but this one photo um, just like, it just like dragged me there, and I looked at the photo and I grabbed it, and I was like, I wanna buy this postcard. And I did. And I just put it on my shelf when I came home, and I just couldn't stop looking at it, and it made me want to know more about her. So I started to do a lot of research on the internet, and then it led to watching her movies, and it led to buying books and reading books, and it grew from there. But pretty much Marilyn has always been around me. She's
She
just
so
always
much
been around.
is. Did you ever think you'd play her? You know, now that you get to play Norma Jeane, you're in an audio podcast, but still you're playing her. You know, that acting has to
Yeah.
come through.
I mean, I've always, it's been a dream of mine to be able to play her. I mean, it's an honor. So I'm so glad that I got to do this.
Well, we're so
Yeah.
excited too because episode 7 is going to, as we call it, drop on Marilyn's anniversary of her passing. So on or around August 5th. So by the time that people see this, it'll be coming down the pike. So this will be wonderful. So they'll get a chance to listen in and hear you and experiencing you as Norma Jeane. And you know what do you think Marilyn would think of this podcast? You know a lot about her. What do you think she'd think?
I think that now, after all these years, I think she would say, finally, finally, this is the true story about me and who I was. And I think that after so many different things and movies and things that have come out about her that are not true, and it's not her story, I believe that she would be happy to see that finally something is out there that actually shows and who she really was, and her struggles, and how people, and perhaps I think that she would also think that maybe with all this, others who are experiencing the same thing that she was going through could somehow get help or feel comfort, or just, like, I know that she's the kind of person who liked helping the people, and I think that this is a way that she would see it, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that because one of the biggest missions, Gary Vitaco Robles and myself, one of the things that we wanted people to get is, which you came right out of the interview saying, is that it was her vulnerability, her ability to relate to her. And so if you look at how big she has become and how exploited she has become, is can we take a life and have a legacy that is about transformation instead of just tragedy? Because to your point, she was always about wanting not only her own help, she was always trying to better herself, but also for other people. And, she didn't get a chance at 36 years old when she left this earth to really transform it in this life. But her life, just like it did with you, could be used to help other people. And to me, I go, wow, there's such power in that. And there's such
Yeah.
healing, right? You know?
And I think that's also why most of her fans, they, what I always say is, when Marilyn comes to your life, when she comes into your life, she's going to be a part of your life forever, because
Yes.
that's how loyal the fans are. We all love her with such passion, and I'm sure that we all have something to thank her for.
You know, and I love the community from that perspective as well, because there's such a love. And also what I find too is really interesting is that your love for Marilyn and what draws you to her may be different that what draws somebody else, right? And so
Yeah, yeah,
everybody has a different bond depending on what it
definitely,
is, right? And I think that's really interesting.
definitely.
What's your favorite either episode or scene in the podcast
Oh
besides your
gosh,
own?
every episode is amazing. They really, everyone does an amazing job. But I think the one I really did enjoy was when we when the part where they take her to Fifth Helena, and she goes into the house and she starts looking around the house. I really enjoyed that one a lot.
Feel
Yeah,
like you're
that one
walking
was
in there with her, right? You
yes,
know,
yes,
you can hear the
yes. I
birds
love her.
chirping, and also just
Mhm.
thinking about it, she's walking around. I also find it so prophetic, you know, with the saying, you know, at her footsteps, you know, basically the destination ends here, my journey ends here. And you know, it's really you know, it feels like maybe it was supposed to be that way, but then the flip side of it, sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, but she didn't get to have her kids, and she didn't get that chance to really entertain in that house as well. But I at least for me, when I was kind of going through the house, I thought everybody does that when they're moving somewhere, right? You know, it's like what could be, right? My dreams coming
Mhm.
true. Um, so you know, Marilyn would say, hold a good thought, you know, for her, right? And what would you like people to get out of this podcast? What would you like to, you know, given your love for Marilyn, what would you like them to get out of this podcast?
A better understanding about mental illness. I really would love people to understand it more and to not judge one who is experiencing certain things and going through something, because you don't know what that person is going through. So please don't judge. And instead, maybe this will help give people a better understanding about what someone is going through and the struggles and how difficult it is to go through it and to try to become better, because it's a battle, you know, it's a battle.
That is so important because if you think about everything that she achieved in her young life with
Yeah.
the mental illness that she had, and not being treated properly, thinking that they were treating her properly, but not being treated properly, you know, really making the situation worse, especially with her sleep. Look at what somebody could really achieve in their own life. I mean, seriously. And so I think that I love what you said about bringing light to mental illness, but also taking away the
Mhm.
stigma, because each and every one of us, whether it's mental illness, whether it's an issue physically, whether it's an emotional issue, we all have stuff we have to work through. And I think in today's age, having a little bit more compassion, I think will help all of us. Taking a page out of Marilyn's handbook with her generosity of spirit and her love for people and animals as well. So thank you, Monica. And we are so excited to continue our journey with you. She is Miss Norma Jeane at 19 years old and does a great, great job. And listen for the episode. If it hasn't dropped yet, it's dropping in August. On or around, you know, the producers is so funny. On her anniversary date, not on her anniversary date. So it maybe even be August 1st. So, but check it out. Episode 7, The White Piano, and you'll get a chance to experience Monica as Norma Jeane. Thank you.
Thank you.